Well, as we know, there was a 13-hour-long ANC-NEC meeting that took place from 2 o'clock yesterday afternoon. And according to our sources, we know that President Jacob Zuma was asked to step down. According to our sources as well, an agreement was not quite struck that pleased President Jacob Zuma, where he eventually actually decided rather not to step down since his needs were not being met by the NEC. We are joined right now by political analyst, Professor Sipho Seepe on the phone line. A very good morning to you, Professor. Thank you so much for joining us. Well, 13 hours later, we still are not 100% sure exactly what the future of the state president is. What's your take, Professor, on the occurrences in the last 24 hours?
Well, the fact that it took 13 hours simply reflects the fact that the ANC applied its mind in dealing with this matter. But also it indicates that the ANC is alive to many repercussions and implications of this decision. And even in arriving at what appears to be a consensus position, the ANC is also alive that it has a lot of work that it needs to do. First of all, this decision is not a decision that came from the ANC conference resolutions. So it will have to be able to take members of the branches along that we made very specific resolutions about where we should be going as a people and as a country. And this was not one of them. How do you then begin to take something that was not on the table and you place it at the top? So that is number one issue that needs to be addressed. Secondly, one must also remember that the president has never said he will not resign. He had said that the process of managing this transition would be something that would have to be agreed by both the incoming leadership of the ANC as well as the head of state. And if one remembers, last week, President of the ANC did indicate that the discussions that he had with President Zuma were both fruitful and constructive. And what he meant is that there was something positive about the issues that they were agreeing upon. But what one must also understand is that the politics is also a home of personal ambition, political ambition, and it's also a space where people try to settle political scores. And there are times when rationality becomes subordinated to personal and political ambitions. And it would appear to me that strong sense that is largely, that speaks to people's interest, not the broader issues that may have been entertained by President Zuma and President Ramaphosa of the ANC, seems to have been scuppered. But already you saw some people, very senior, making statements and divulging information that should have been privileged. And that contaminated the whole process. But I think we should not be alarmed that we are where we are. This is what happens in democracies. What should be alarming is the ANC to allow itself to be pushed to a corner by the noise that largely comes from the opposition and the mainstream media, not the posture that had emerged from the conference that was very clear that the unity is something that should be considered to be sacrosanct. But we should also be approach this as a transition. It's very important that in South Africa we don't have coups. You have parties that go through their own challenges. And the ANC is a home of different bodies of opinion. And this is what some people see as elements of divisions, but it could also be elements of strength in the sense that it is a party that is able to accommodate even contradictory ideological impulses. But what is important is that the organization has made a decision. And my sense it would be that the president, as a disciplined member of the ANC, will look at this and respond in a manner that also tries to look at the broader picture for both the organization as well as for the country.
And Professor, why do you think it was so important for President Jacob Zuma in his own plans for transition to actually be the one to introduce Cyril Ramaphosa as the next president at the BRICS and AU summit that's coming up this year?
No, those are part of something that makes things a bit easier and smooth, because what it does, it creates that sense that even though there may be differences, remember President Zuma as a head of state and as a former president of the ANC, he has never been defeated politically. And he would want to make sure that he has a good relationship with his successor. And his successor, it's also in his successor's interest to make sure that there is that smooth transition. And I think that between the two of them, that has been ironed out. But the zealots that are triumphalist in the ANC will have none of it. But even that is also part of political contestation. It is not, the world does not come to an end because somebody's term as a leader in a political organization comes to an end. The issue has always been in any country, how you manage that transition. And it's nothing new. It happens. I mean, there was a time in American politics where the incoming president of the United States or the outgoing refused even to speak to the incoming one because of the politics that were toxic that took place between that transition. But here you have the ANC that had decided to take a decision after much consultation, after much discussion, after much disagreement. What will be said is when those disagreements begin to become very factional and undermine the organization.
Professor, thank you so much for joining us this morning on Morning Prime and for sharing your thoughts there. Our political analyst, Professor Sipho Seepe, on the phone line expressing his thoughts on the outcomes of the NEC meeting, which we will be hearing about at 2 o'clock this afternoon, mentioning also that he feels that President Jacob Zuma is a disciplined member of the ANC, and so his response to the NEC's thoughts will be one in line with what is best for the party as well as the Republic.